Bum, 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 ba, 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 ba. That's all I
I
got.
like it, baby. Way to go. Way to bring it in style. Where's your guitar? Can't you,
Oh,
get
good
it out?
call. How could I not do that?
How could you not do that? Especially when it looks like you're in a studio where it's like Ahmed Fareed unplugged around you, right? Like it's say,
Yes.
hey, instead of the normal pod today, I invited a few guests over and we're gonna do the show live here in front of the brick wall and my lighted skis that I have on the back over here.
So first of all, if you're just listening and not watching, welcome to the pod, by the way. So rude of Chris not to welcome you on the day after Christmas here. We are doing it remotely. We are in our homes right now. Chris has got the TV screen behind him that looks like he's in studio there at NBC. Don't be fooled. He's at home. He just got out of bed and rolled over there to his home. And I have a full set. That is a wallpaper brick wall. That is not real. That is a real black wall that I painted. And then the two light skis in the back, Chris, you're going to like this. You didn't even know this. I didn't preview this to you.
Wow, we got a controller?
Those can change.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Yellow when we talk about, the Steelers,
Saints, right? Saints, the Steelers, right?
49ers,
right? Okay. Well, you're gonna have to keep that going. Colored theme podcast here in the background. I like it.
Exactly.
Like seriously, this was built just to do this kind of stuff, or what'd you do here?
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's ever since the global pandemic, we've all had to adjust. And so this is whenever I do a live stream, NBC News, Lester Holt comes calling. I just go, all right, Lester, I'll do it from my streaming.
I got a real professional studio. Hold on.
Yes.
All right. Well,
yes.
Either way, on a personal level, did you have a good Christmas? Christmas Eve, everything good?
It was good. We've been watching Christmas movies. You'll be happy to know that. And so I've caught up, seen all three of the Santa Clauses with Tim Allen now.
Right.
Watched Elf with the kids. And so, it was a real good day. I got to spend it at home. Chris, you had to work, unfortunately, but you still got Christmas morning with the family, right?
I did. And most importantly, Christmas Eve. That's the one I care about the most. That's kind of the one where we have a big family dinner. And I enjoy Christmas Eve, I think, more than Christmas, oddly enough, right? I don't know where that switched in my life, but I got to some age at some point where I like Christmas Eve the most. But it was awesome. I mean, and then with the NFL games going on, it was a great day. It was action-packed. I mean, seriously, at the end of the 1:00 games, we had family coming in the house. I've already now started to drink. The games are ending. It's crazy crap going on. I'm telling the family, be quiet. Wait, hold on. And I'm going back and forth on DirecTV. So it was an action-packed Christmas Eve. That's for sure. And Christmas Day wasn't bad. I would have rather been at home, but being with those people at work wasn't that bad.
It's like family. You spend probably more time with them than you do your family at this point in football season. So we thought about it, and Pete was like, well, we got to still do a pod. We're going to give, Kristen a day off, Gabby, Morgan, they can be at home, although Kristen's texting you to keep the F-bombs to a minimum today.
Well, also, you'd be happy to hear, that I didn't pass out on Christmas Eve night. I made it. I helped my wife put the presents out in front of the tree. Okay, it's the first time in about 7, 8, 9 years. All right, so I just want to give myself a pat on the back before we get into football things. That I did it this year. I didn't get too drunk and I didn't get too high, and I actually enjoyed the process.
All right, we're gonna have you step out of the room. We're gonna bring in Danielle to corroborate your story independently of you.
Yeah, right.
See what she says. That's good to hear, though. No, that does make sense, and that's cool. That's cool that you got to spend all that time with your family. Although Dad was having to work both days, right?
Yeah, he was. Dad wasn't around, right? Yeah, it was. And then added on top of that, Ahmed, as you could tell, we had no power here for 36 hours. So we woke up on Friday morning, the 23rd, with no power, and then did not get power again till about 4:00 on Saturday afternoon on Christmas Eve. We have a generator, thank God, that keeps some things alive. I had one TV alive with DirecTV. That's how I was watching games early on. But yeah, that became a little bit of a panic mode, especially, when we're cooking and got all these people coming over. It was the 2-minute drill. We just got it done.
I know. I thought about that too, because I thought we were going to lose power, and we have a fireplace. We have a couple of them, but I'm like, man, how are we going to keep warm? We don't have.
Yeah, right. It was freezing. Exactly. I know.
It's crazy, but we got through it. We survived, and now
we
have 30 games to talk about. That's what it feels like here. So our promise to you, the homie, as we do every week here on Monday, we'll talk about every game included because it's Christmas, Chris. We're throwing in the Thursday game. We will legitimately talk about the Thursday game. A lot to talk about in that one. Trevor Lawrence getting another victory with the Jaguars looking like a playoff team at this point. But let's start at the top here with probably the game of the weekend, although there are a lot of good ones. The Dallas Cowboys get the win over the Philadelphia Eagles, 40-34. And I kept thinking during this game, because this was the big blow up during the week, Chris, for you, is that,
right.
You said that you dared say the Eagles would be not that bad with Gardner Minshew, and Eagles fans tore you apart. They're like, how dare you say something like that against our team or against Jalen Hurts? But here you go. They weren't significantly worse than the Cowboys, and they could have won this game if it weren't for some late turnovers. 40-34 was the final score. And I just kept thinking how many Eagles fans were out there being like, Gardner, don't win this game. Don't let Chris be right. Don't let Chris be right. You almost were, Chris.
Well, I mean, again, it's the tough part of the business, right? It was a great game. You said that. I mean, it was the marquee game of the weekend with these two teams, especially, and it being the Cowboys. And but Ahmed, my point to how you were explaining it wasn't that Gardner Minshew's better than Jalen Hurts. It's just that offense is still going to be able to move the ball down the field against anybody in the league with Gardner Minshew a quarterback. And win or lose, I think we saw that. That's for sure. Let alone like self-inflicted mistakes where they could have easily won the game. I mean, up 27-20. At that point, nobody's stopping them. Fumble the exchange on a handoff, right? And then, hey, of course, at the end of the game, we have the interceptions and the fumbles too. And, Gardner wasn't perfect. It was his first time playing. Just think about that. I had some people on social media like, it's not as good. And I want to be like, I didn't think it was going to be as good. But here he hasn't played all year, and it was still very good to where they were moving the ball like a machine up and down the field on one of the best defenses in the game. But hey, say what you want. I got concerns a little bit with both defenses. Dallas's playmakers made it happen at the end of the football game. Whether it's the strip on Miles Sanders, how about the rookie Bland with the interception? I mean, hey, Gardner Minshew, both of his interceptions were tough. They were both good plays by the defenders, right? The second one, really a good play by Deron Bland, who we talked about him last week, right? Ahmed, he's a player, but fun game to watch. Gardner Minshew did a really good job. And my point was that Philadelphia would be just fine with Gardner Minshew. And I think that point should have been received, or you're just being a hater at this point and just don't want to admit it.
Like, I remember when Brock Purdy was inserted as the 49ers quarterback, the rookie, the 7th rounder, last pick of the draft. You were like, I think their ceiling is lowered now. Now, maybe that's changed since then. We'll get to the 49ers. Yeah. Do you think that if Hurts is supposed to come back, he might even come back in the regular season. If they had to go the rest of the way with Gardner Minshew, could they still win the Super Bowl?
Yes, but I don't think that necessarily means that their ceiling is higher with Jalen Hurts. I do want to make sure that's definitely felt. His playmaking ability, his running ability puts that offense to another edge, whether it's the scrambling or the quarterback design runs. It gives them another element that just makes them even tougher to defend, especially against the elite defenses in football. Do I still think that Philadelphia could win a Super Bowl with Gardner Minshew? Yes. And again, that's, Ahmed, think about who we're talking to here. I mean, I'm the guy, my dad was on a good team and really good team and got hurt. And then the backup went and won the Super Bowl. So I'm not trying to put anybody down or take credit from anybody. I'm just trying to explain football and how it works and how good this football team is. I can't remember if I said this to you last week or not, but I mean, hey, Joe Montana left the 49ers and Steve Young and the 49ers went to what? 4 to the next 5 NFC championship games and won a Super Bowl. And we're the second best team in football. They just couldn't beat the Cowboys in a championship game. So that's all I was trying to say. Again, it's not disrespect to Jalen Hurts, but that's a really good football team. We saw that. But how could you not be a little concerned? Forget Gardner Minshew and the offense. I'm not worried about that. It's the defense on both sides of the ball there that I would be more concerned with anything after seeing that game on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, what do you make of the Dallas defense? Number one defense, gave up 442 yards against Gardner Minshew. Did get the 4 turnovers, though, although some were self-inflicted by the Eagles. Yeah, do you have concerns about the Cowboys defense? Because I think the thought for a long time has been, the offense can be good, it can be elite, but, man, they can just rely on that defense to take them all the way to the big game. What do you make of Dallas's defense?
It's almost reversed, Ahmed. It's almost where I go, the offense is elite right now, and it's almost unstoppable. And the defense is, good and got some playmakers, but inconsistent. And Ahmed, I think, we've hit on it a lot. To me, when they have to play a team that is big and powerful up front, and then at least has somewhat of a good passing game, and we know Philadelphia has better than a somewhat of a good passing game, it puts them in a tough spot. See, that's why they could match up well with the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota's run game's not scary, right? So that's why they could, we can kind of, play more pass defense, and we still feel like we can stop the run. But with teams like Jacksonville and Philadelphia, who are really big up front, and it poses a problem to them where they go, oh, wait, we got to put an extra guy down there. We got to play some man-to-man. We got to take run blitz to stop some of these runs and all that. And then as you're seeing a Trevor Lawrence or the Philadelphia Eagles, they have enough of a passing attack to go, boy, you're going to play us this aggressively? Well, we could take advantage of it too. That's where I worry about them. It's like we've said, it's a smaller defense. So therefore, they have to use chaos and creativity to make plays. And when you do that, you can get burned as well. And I think we're seeing that a little bit here as of late.
Doomsday defense, more like Dumbsday defense.
Doomsday.
Right?
Well,
Pete
and they wear out.
Pete wrote that.
Yeah.
We got to give credit to Pete on that one. Who's working on the day after Christmas?
He sounds like a Giants fan who's a hater on the Cowboys. That's what that sounds like.
We got a question from Amy X Joshua. Back to Gardner Minshew. Damn okay, Gardner Minshew. Do you think that performance, he should be a starter in the league?
Well, I think Gardner Minshew is one of those guys that he's hopefully gets a chance somewhere one point here and gets a chance to prove himself to be a starter with at least a quality team around him, right? I honestly think in a lot of ways, Taylor Heineke, but I think he's actually a better thrower and a better player within the pocket than Taylor Heineke. Maybe can't make some of those magic plays that we've seen, but he would be, to me, the guy if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, right? We don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be ready to go. I don't think Colt McCoy is going to continue to play, and he's getting to an age where I don't know if they can necessarily depend on him to be healthy and be the guy. But that's what Ahmed, hey, we'll take a shot on this guy for a year and see maybe he can be the guy, and if not, then we'll go to the draft. I feel like that's kind of where he is: low-level starter, big-time, high-end backup.
4 turnovers is what it took for the Cowboys to win this game, despite Gardner Minshew being in there, no Jalen Hurts, and still only won by 6. And they actually have their 2 losses this year, Chris. They had 4 turnovers in each of those games. Did the Eagles 13-2 now? And you've given me the Columbo, the one finger here. There's one more thing I want to say about this game.
One more thing, okay? And then just the Philadelphia defense. Again, it's really good, but my issue with Philadelphia a little bit, Ahmed, and hear me out on this, is I just don't think they force the issue enough. It's kind of been my issue with them really for 2 years. They've gotten better at it and become a little more creative and tactically aggressive. But for me, they're too talented and too good. There's too many plays, and I'll be interested to go back and watch this film where I just go, the quarterback's too comfortable. He walks in the line of scrimmage. They knows the coverage. There's no disguise. It's just oh, here it is. And you know me, and I think this is pretty true to modern day football. Unless you just have a super, super, super unbelievable, crazy good defense, you got to change it up and try to trick these quarterbacks a little bit and take some calculated chances. And to me, Ahmed, when you have that type of offense and you're that good on that side of the ball as Philadelphia is on the offensive side of the ball, I wouldn't want to play conservative. We'll slowly bend and let the good teams drive down the field and keep Jalen Hurts and our offense on the sideline. So I would like to see them change that. We'll see. And, maybe that was a little bit of a wake-up call on Saturday afternoon.
Well, it's weird. They're doing both. They're bending, they're breaking, they're doing a little bit of a combination of 2 of the worst things, because that T.Y. Hilton 52-yard catch on 3rd and 30, that was a huge play in the game.
Huge play in cover two, and they just didn't play it right. And that's where I want to go back and watch the film a little bit to go what was the safety over there doing? Why did he get stuck in the middle of the field more than he should? And then even the corner and cover two, the corners are responsible for the flat. But if there's nobody in the flat, they got to keep going. And it just seemed like they messed up some details in this game and got a little sloppy. And Dallas wanted to make a point to go, hey, we can beat you. And I think they played a good game and made their point, and we'll see. I'm not so sure they can beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia with a healthy Jalen Hurts, though. That's a different question.
It's funny. We haven't seen either team play. Well, we haven't seen the Dak versus Jalen Hurts game yet. It was Cooper Rush the first time they played, and here we have Gardner Minshew the second time. Yeah. So if they play in the playoffs, hopefully we finally get that matchup. The NFC East has been so interesting all year long. The NFC East includes your Giants, who go down in a close one to the Minnesota Vikings, 27-24, the final score. And now the Vikings are 11-0 in one-possession games. Most wins all time in a season. 11 wins in one-possession games. We've never seen that before in the NFL. Wes Kruger starts this out with a question for you, Chris. Can you explain how the Vikings are undefeated in one-score games? Explain how this has happened.
Yeah, it's hard to explain it. It really is. I don't know if I can explain it other than the fact that, hey, they have been opportunistic as far as they found ways to make plays in some clutch moments. And Kirk Cousins, Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson have been able to execute in big-time situational football to put their team in position to score a touchdown, the field goal in those big moments. But, again, let's just talk about, what set that off in this one, right? It's 17-16. Giants looked like they're kind of controlling the game. They kicked the field goal, then the punt gets blocked. Oh, now Minnesota's got the short field. So it seems like they always seem to make a play like that, even though the rest of the game is a little bit unimpressive. So it is truly remarkable. It's one of those games where I'm disappointed the Giants lost, of course, but Pete and I were talking about this yesterday, where you almost feel good about it in a lot of ways too. Wait, it's a really good football team, and we were toe-to-toe with them and really made some mistakes that, we don't typically make. Danny Dimes had an unbelievable game through the interception on the crossing route when they were kind of in field goal territory, fringe field goal territory. So it is the weirdest thing ever. I felt good about the Giants after the game. I didn't feel much better about the Vikings. Yeah, because I don't think they're going to get away with this type of play against the elite teams in the NFC. But still, what can you say? Credit to them for getting it done in the clutch moments once again.
So last year, as a Lions fan, I got to win the Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. That was cool. We take credit for that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe this year, and we'll get to my Lions later on. We've buried them in this show. I don't even know if we are going to talk about them. But this year, they could win the Super Bowl with T.J. Hockenson. He had a career-high 13 catches in this one, in another game where Justin Jefferson went off too. Minnesota, for as much as they've just barely eked out some wins and they have had to come back, and it seems like it might be fool's gold, offensively, they've got some serious weapons here and some talent and some guys who have proven it. What do you make about the Vikings? Their defense has been porous, and I think that's the reason why we're more skeptical. But if you just take a look at the offense, there aren't a whole lot that are better than the Minnesota Vikings. Would you agree with that?
No, I would agree with that. And they have answers schematically for just about everything you do. It's a really good unit. I think the only part that keeps them away from me going, oh, it's just a top tier, one of the upper echelon type of offense is just the offensive line. It's maybe not as physically dominant as some of those other offenses. And then maybe, Kirk Cousins can't make the off-schedule plays like some of the other top offenses have quarterbacks, like Allen and Mahomes and company Jalen Hurts that can do that. But yes, they for the most part, are pretty good at taking care of the football. Cousins is an aggressive decision maker. They know how to design and feature Justin Jefferson to a point where they go, we'll just keep feeding them until you do, Ahmed, like we've talked about. That's their elite thing they do, is get him the ball, and then they make you adjust to, oh, wait, okay, now we got to take him away, and then that brings other guys into play, and this week it was Hockenson. And that's kind of the thing, or the question about them a little bit, is just that, who can be that consistent other guy in a big playoff game if Justin Jefferson doesn't go off against the 49ers or the Eagles or the Cowboys or somebody like that. And that's where they're going to need Hockenson and Thielen to come into play. I'm not amazed by the offense, Ahmed, but it's really good. And it has all the answers versus all the defenses and blitzes and it's checks and balances and all that. But I don't come away watching it on film going, oh, wow, this is the most creative thing I've ever seen. It's just really good and solid and really well taught and detailed.
They've been able to score in a lot of games, but Pete noted in a tweet that he sent out yesterday, and he has it here in our rundown, is that the point differential of teams with 11 or more wins this year, it's crazy. The Bills have the best point differential in the NFL at plus 157, so they've scored 157 more points than they've given up. The 49ers right behind them at 145. Eagles are over 100. Cowboys over 100. Chiefs over 100. Bengals plus 85. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings at plus 5. And it's going to be that defense. I mean, they've won so many close games. It's like we see this in baseball too, one-run games. And does that translate into the postseason, being able to win one-run games? Like I've said before on the pod, I think winning one-score games in the NFL helps you get into the postseason. I don't think it necessarily helps you once you're in the postseason.
Agreed with that. Again, it's a different type of team you're playing. There's teams take more tactical chances to go, hey, it's win or go home. I don't want to play this defense, but we got to take Justin Jefferson away, right? So that's where, you don't think, at least I don't think that's sustainable to go on a playoff run. And, this is a stat that it holds, me, I don't always look at all stats. This stat is one that kind of holds water to me a little bit. It's one of those that's really kind of tried and true through the test of time in the NFL where, point differential usually is somewhat of a telltale sign. And yes, I mean, great teams that win a Super Bowl usually don't lose 40-3 at home, or they're not down to a team that's one of the worst teams in football, 33-0, even though it was a great comeback. So that's where it's weird. It's like the perfect storm of new coach, new energy, favorable schedule early on, gotta little lucky with, some injuries to the other teams or they mess up. And then they've been clutching some big moments. And somehow, some way we've gotten here to a 12-3 record. And I have no idea. But yeah, there's concerns. And I still will stand by that it's one of the lesser 12-3 football teams I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if that's a nice compliment or a bad thing or what, but it's just what it is.
I think that's bad. I don't think there's much debate about that. That's not a compliment to them. But they've certainly been exciting this year, as have the Vikings, who are 8-6-1 now. They can still clinch a wild card with one win in their final two games. The Colts, then they're at Eagles, can still get in if teams behind them lose too, which definitely could happen.
Yeah, Giants are in a good spot.
Yeah, we really could get this game again in Minnesota. These two teams in the playoffs.
Right. And again, we saw that. That's what's weird. We're talking about a team that could be the number 2 seed, and we really look at every team from 5, 6, 7, and 8 and go, well, they could probably go in there and it'll be a really fun, close game, right? That's where it's just weird. They are the number 2 seed for now. They're certainly not, to me, in the class of the Eagles or the 49ers, especially. But you're right. There's a very real chance we could see this. And, the Giants, nothing's going to be easy. Them playing the Colts next week, it'll probably be a close football game. It will be, but yeah, hopefully they can win it and squeak in, or at the very least, Philly might not be playing for anything the last week of the year too. That could come in handy for the Giants.
Giants currently in the playoffs right now, as are the Washington Commanders. We got all the NFC East teams in right now. They are the 7th seed, even though they lost to the 49ers. Final score in this one was 37-20. Taylor Heineke got benched in this game. Carson Wentz came back in after the game was pretty much decided. Let me start, though, with the 49ers side of things here. Like, after this game, and of course, working with you for so long, it's like you and Kyle are tight, so you really can't say this, but maybe I can. I was like, after that game, I was like, Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the year. I don't know that you can take any other coach and take away his starting quarterback, go to Jimmy Garoppolo, who, yes, very good and has taken them to the Super Bowl before, and so that wasn't that much of a drop-off. But now to get even better with the final pick in the draft, a Brock Purdy guy who's starting to look pretty good. Like, I don't know. For me, he's my coach of the year right now. If the season were to end right now, he's my coach of the year. What do you think?
I'm glad you went there. I am, because now it doesn't sound like it's me propping up my friend, which I was getting ready to go there with these comments about the 49ers, because I think there's a lot of comments like that to be made. I mean, you're saying it right. Last pick of the draft, rookie quarterback, third stringer. Holy shit, we've been through a lot of crap here this year. And Ahmed, we're sitting here and I'm going, I don't know. They're the best team in football. They're certainly the hottest team in the sport right now. I mean, what they've done the last 8 weeks, the way they're dominating football teams. I mean, there's been very few games where ever since that Kansas City loss where you've even gone like, even had a feeling that the 49ers are going to lose the game. I mean, really, the Dolphins game was a little scary. The Chargers game was a little scary. Other than that, you just felt like, man, I'm watching the 49ers and they just seem like they're on a different level than the other team I'm watching here on the field. And they got it all. And then, to your point, yeah, I think just how he keeps the team focused, the creativity, the toughness and mental fortitude the team has played with having to deal with these, it's all head coach stuff. And then, just the way he has that quarterback in that last pick of the draft playing. That's what I think is amazing to me. To me, Shanahan has learned how to manage the game and a younger quarterback in a different way, Ahmed. And, where they're running the ball, we know that. And then the other thing I like is maybe lower percentage passes they're throwing with Brock Purdy, but higher percentage in safety. That to me is another thing that's jumped out. We hit on this a little last week, but it's, hey, the screens and all that. We know that, hey, boots, they're safe. And then we're seeing throws outside the numbers and down the field, and they're not asking them to jam the ball in the middle all the time, right? Where a lot of mistakes can happen. And I just look at that and go, oh my gosh, right now they seem harder to defend with the formula they got working, let alone that defense is crazy and clearly the best in football.
Well, that's what a lot of people will say too. It's like, well, he's got that great defense, but
sure,
they're scoring a ton of points still. They scored 30 points against a pretty good Washington defense here, but you're right. The 49ers defense gives them legit Super Bowl possibilities here.
Yes.
Nick Bosa, another big game for him, a couple sacks, a key fourth down stop. One of those sacks forced a fumble. He has now 17.5 sacks on the
Defensive
year.
Player of the Year, Ahmed.
Too shy of the all-time mark there in San Francisco. Alden Smith currently has that. You think it is? You think it's basically almost done? You think he's the Defensive Player of the Year?
I mean, Defensive Player of the Year is, outstanding play and then consistency. I'm into that, right? Like we talked about that last year a little bit. I just feel like we're here every Monday and Nick Bosa's in the conversation for a damn okay, or hey, somebody tweets in something to the podcast and hey, what about Nick Bosa, right? I mean, you can't really talk about the 49ers right now without bringing him up and going, he just makes a handful of plays and puts stress on the offense every week that I don't think anybody has the effect of that right now. This is a really well-rounded football team, and they got it rolling. And Deebo Samuel's not even out there. And they're pushing the ball down the field. The defense swarms. Javon Kinlaw is getting close to coming back, and I don't, I like the fact that they didn't take any chances early on in this game. And we're just like, okay, we'll just go in a defensive tussle here early on. They believe in themselves that the defense will make a play or the offense will get it going. And they get things going. He gets a little unlucky with the interception. And, what happens? They're up 14-7. And the other team panicked. That, to me, was one of the dumber calls of the weekend. The Washington Commanders going for a quarterback sneak on 4th and 1, right? On their own, 30-something yard line. You're down by 7. You're playing Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Your defense is clearly the standard of your football team. And you're just going to let them have a short field and capitalize on momentum and get going that way. That was, to me, the moment where really the game swayed clearly in the 49ers' favor, and they felt like they controlled from that point on.
Pete notes in the rundown, he goes, forget Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa could be the big butt of the year favorite. You know what? He's got a good point. We'll have to go see what BetMGM says about that. Brock Purdy is the second quarterback since 1950 to start 3-0 with multiple touchdown passes in each of his first 3 career starts. We've been tracking that since the beginning. Kurt Warner's the other in 1999. So that went pretty well for the Rams and Kurt Warner. He has unlocked George Kittle here. He had a season-high 120 receiving yards. What's happened there, you think? How come George Kittle's gotten going now that Brock Purdy's the quarterback?
I don't think it's necessarily Brock Purdy. I think it's the run game. That's the one thing, like, at least when I'm watching the games or I've been in, the video room and we're watching with when they unlock the running game, now that's when he can play with you at the second level with George Kittle, right? Hey, we're going this way. And George Kittle's the tight end where he's blocking. Oh, he comes across the field, right? The play action pass becomes more available. He can just kind of tie it together more when the run game's really working. He starts to feel teams being over aggressive. Safeties and linebackers are overplaying their, go-to run plays. That's usually when he hits that. And then, again, I think the other thing that's just, even though they're lower percentage passes, is we're seeing the ball push down the field more with Brock Purdy. And, because of that, that's leading. 15 completions for 234, throwing a deep post down the middle. And I believe, what was that, a third down to Kittle? I feel like we didn't see that stuff with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's where I'm just amazed by this Brock Purdy, his calmness and, his maturity for a rookie quarterback.
Our friend Jay Croucher is all aboard the Brock Purdy has a chance at the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I would like to throw my guy in the mix there too. Draft season, my favorite wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. I think he's had a pretty good rookie year.
He has.
And I think last thing I'll say about this game is that the Washington Commanders, I look at this team, Chase Young back. Hopefully he comes back strong. I feel like they're a quarterback away. And I think they knew that, trying to get Carson Wentz in there, and doesn't look like Taylor Heineke's got much longer there in Washington, although we've said that in the past. I don't know. They seem like a team going into next year, if they can somehow figure out who's going to be their quarterback and it's an upgrade, they've got the weapons. They've got some talent on defense. It seems like they're just a quarterback away. Do you agree?
I do agree. They got everything. I'm not so sure that, with the Carson Wentz decision, it doesn't happen this year. Ahmed, I've been one the whole year going, I feel bad for Carson Wentz. He got to play when the coaches and the team failed him. That's where I didn't like when Ron Rivera was going, when Heineke came in, they were like, what's different about what he's doing? And he's going, winning, after like 3 weeks before, how he stuck up for, everybody getting on Carson Wentz. He was all like, you got to respect this guy. And, he's done all the right things. And then he shits on him himself 3 weeks later. And I want to go, no. You need to take some accountability there too. You couldn't run the ball and you couldn't protect him. And now you're just going to let everybody pile on him after you just tried to stop us from piling on him a few weeks before that. I did not love that aspect. Okay. I just had to get that off my chest. But, I guarantee you why this became a thing, Ahmed, is because now they're watching Heineke, as we've always talked about, leave some plays on the field, and he's making a few mistakes. And they're watching big Carson Wentz, who's like John Wayne back there in practice, and he's zoom, and they're going, damn, that Heineke can't do that. So wait, now we have a run game and can protect. Maybe we should throw him into the mix. And I think honestly, that's probably what's happened there, and then Heineke just being careless with the football. So I'll be interested to see where that goes. Like, I still think, Ahmed, to your point, they're dangerous. And if Carson Wentz could come in and not be stupid and make bad mistakes in that, with his physical ability, and we've seen what he can do with that, they would be scary to me if they were at wild card weekend. And you're going, oh, no, that defense and Jahan Dotson, like you're talking about, and Terry McLaurin and the running game, the way it's going, they could still be scary this year. But your point about next year is real, and you're right on about that.
Well, it's funny. It's two teams that are like, oh, who's our quarterback of the future? And they're two teams that are both in the playoffs right now and could be playoff teams this
I
year.
love it because it's a team sport. That's right, Ahmed.
To a team that knows who their future quarterback's going to be, Chiefs and Seahawks. Come on, Geno Smith. He's the guy, right? So it's like,
he is.
And the Kansas City Chiefs.
By that.
You don't even flinch. Patrick Mahomes is certainly the guy. He is now the betting favorite for the MVP at minus 500 per BetMGM. Joe Burrow is plus 600. Jalen Hurts is plus 900 now after getting hurt. Chiefs get the win over Geno Smith and the Seahawks. 24-10 is the final score. We'll get to the Seahawks side of things, but I was watching you on Football Night, and it's just like a weekly thing where you go, the Magic Man. Patrick Mahomes making magic happen. I mean, how cool was that play where he's diving in, does the one-handed like body plank, and then barely reaches out and gets half an inch on the pylon for the touchdown?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's every week he has a play where we just go, what? How do you do that? I mean, he's unlike anything we've seen. And that's what's amazing and annoying. And like, let's chalk this one up to Sunday being annoying Chiefs game, where you just were like, you're controlling the game and they drop a pass or there's a penalty or the receiver doesn't get 2 feet in bounds. And it's just like, it's always on a thread of like, they're about to take over and blow the team out. And they're like, well, we know we're so much better. It's just, it's Christmas Eve. It's the Seahawks. We'll kind of play good and put them away and then let them come back a little and then put them away again. They're annoying that way. But they're still encouraging things about what they do. I mean, the Magic Man's the quarterback. Their offense, underneath the center, attitude, running the football. I'm a big fan of what they're doing that way. And Ahmed, their defense was dominant in the game. That was, to me, the shocker of it. I mean, for 3 quarters, I felt like every time I looked at the screen of that game, I was going, Geno Smith's ducking. Geno Smith's on the ground. Geno Smith slowly getting up. I mean, holy crap, did they hit him a lot.
So Sean 27 up next says to you, hey, Chris, when watching the Chiefs game, was Geno's performance more him missing throws or our defense rounding into form?
No, I think it's defense rounding into form right there. And I'm interested to see if the Chiefs did some different things on defense. You've heard me say they're great at disguising and they're great with creative blitzing, but a lot of the times the coverages end up being somewhat like we've talked about. It's all out blitz and there's no safety, or it's we blitz one and it's just cover one, or it's this crazy disguise and it ends up in Tampa 2. But man, they seem like they pose problems for Geno, who's been very good decision maker, not afraid to throw the ball into tight windows. And it just looked like he had nowhere to throw the ball. And then he just didn't have enough protection to even, let things develop at times. It was one of those games where you went, man, Chiefs, you're annoying. But it's like the one thing is amazing about them is Mahomes in the passing game. And I'm like, well, that'll be good when it needs to be. They were just a little bit complacent in that one and ended up winning the game kind of an ugly, dominant fashion.
Well, if you would have known that Kenneth Walker was going to have over 100 yards in the game, you'd be like, uh-oh, maybe they did some things here. But Seattle converted only 2 of 14 third downs.
Right.
And so throwing the football, everything else was pretty difficult for Seattle throughout the game. That has now lost 3 games in a row, Chris.
Yeah.
And they are 7-8. They are just outside the playoffs. They are currently the 8th seed, tied record-wise with Detroit and Green Bay right now. I don't know. It seems like they're running out of steam.
I would agree. I think we're seeing they're playing a part of their schedule where teams can kind of capitalize on their flaws. You see again there a good defense. They just can't block these good defensive lines. We saw it in the 49ers game, right? 2 Thursdays ago. It's just Geno's under duress. And even think about the runs you saw in that game with Kenneth Walker. They weren't really blocked all that well. It was just like, it's freak show Kenneth Walker. He runs over here, he stops, he cuts back and runs all the way to the other side of the field. It's just so I think, yes, the flaws or the issues with their team have finally come home to roost. It exceeded expectations. And even for that game, where they were they fight, they play hard. And there it was, what was it, 17-13? And really one of the plays of the game was the interception that Geno threw when they were kind of close to the red zone fringe. And that was the moment of the game where you went, oh, man, that was their chance to come back and really make it like a nail biter. And the Chiefs, as they usually do, their playmakers make plays in big moments. And Thornhill came up with the big pick. And then I believe it was the next drive where he threw a big pass to Kelsey and they put him down 24-3. It might have been 2 drives later. I can't remember all the damn stuff I watched.
Yep, big win by the Chiefs on Christmas Eve. They got to celebrate Christmas Day, watch some other football. I was thinking, Chris, 2 things that disappear on Christmas. Santa's gone for the year. You know what else disappears on Christmas? Tuanon, never to be heard from again. I think we might have heard the last of Tuanon for at least a while.
You're funny.
here as we got to watch this on Christmas Day. Packers and Dolphins. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are not done yet. The Dolphins are not done either. They're 8-7. They're barely hanging on to a playoff spot right now. But Aaron Rodgers brings the guys back in a game that in the first half, I was like, man, Packers could get blown out today. Like it was getting to the point where I was like, I don't know that they can stop them. And we know that their offense isn't anything super, super special. It was, I was maybe as shocked about like one half to the next half in this game than any other game in the NFL this week.
Agreed. I mean, there was a few moments in the game where I went, oh, I mean, Pete will tell you, he was in the viewing room with me yesterday on Christmas. When they went, let me just make sure I got this right here. When they went, I believe it was, they got a turnover close down there. Oh, and they were up 17-10 and had a short field, right? After Green Bay, what did they fake the punt? They faked the punt, right? I right there went, well, this is over. This is going to be 24-10 in 3 minutes and 3 plays here. And then they held them to a field goal. And I went, okay, Green Bay's going to hang around a little bit. Then, the fumble right before the half by Mostert, right? It's 20-10 and they're at midfield and you're going, well, they're going to go down and score or at least get a field goal here. And then what happens is Green Bay gets a field goal. Green Bay starts the ball with the third quarter. They drive down the field. And all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, wow. Like, I'm with you, Ahmed. It had the feel of Green Bay was barely hanging on to, wait, we're in a ball game here. And even with that, at 20-20, I just went, oh, that's all right. We've seen Miami do this. And then they put the gas on, the pedal to the metal, and they leave you in the dust. But mistakes, and clearly, Tua's worst game. That's for sure. The other 3 losses had a lot of silver lining to it. This game did not. And this game was one you could, purely blame on Tua and the Dolphins making some bad mistakes.
And it comes right after a game in Buffalo where it was a good game for them.
Right.
I hear people saying now it's like, oh, the momentum's totally shifted on Miami because they've lost, what is it? They've lost a few in a row now.
4 in a row.
4 in a row. So it's like, but it was like, I feel like they had some momentum after last week's game against the Buffalo Bills. But yeah, clearly Tua turned the ball over, as Pete has put in the rundown here. It's Pete, that's piling on. That's just piling on at this point. 3 interceptions in the second half.
Well, it's almost a little bit like we talked with who were we talking about? Seattle a little bit. It's just that, again, they've gotten to the part of the schedule. They're playing some good defenses, and there's been enough of an accumulation of, copycat league like we talked about, where teams go, oh, wait, I like what that team did against Miami. Oh, in this situation, I like what this team, and they start to put it all together. And we're seeing, with some of those easy completions are not there to be had as games go on. Teams are getting a feel for it. And, again, it's not a big arm quarterback. So when some of those offensive tactical plays that McDaniel's so good at coming up kind of fail, he's not the quarterback that's just going to throw lasers around the field and say, jump on my back, I got you guys. And, forget all of that. And I knew he couldn't do that. It just was shocked by some of the decisions. The 3 interceptions were bad, right? I mean, the first one, the RPO, wow, was that a tight window and there were a lot of people over there, right? And he airmailed it and threw it a little high and Jair Alexander got it. The next one, hey, they answer and they're going right back down the field. And you're going, okay, Tua's fine. They're good. And he's got Mostert in the slot and wants to hit him right away. But it doesn't look like the play was designed for that. And Mostert was running a seam route and wasn't expecting the ball, let alone I think Tua was fooled by the coverage. And I don't think he saw Devondre Campbell. And then the last one was the worst one by far. I think I showed it, and hopefully you saw it on Football Night in America, but you got to under route and you got to out route over the top of it. You throw the under route until they take it away, until that corner jumps on it. Then you go over the top with it. It's like he predetermined and was like, they won't let Tyreek be this open, so I'm going to have to throw to the other guy. And, they were bad ones. And, man, I just can't believe the Dolphins are now fighting for their playoff lives here down the stretch.
Yeah, and they just needed one of those last 4 drives to maybe produce a touchdown, and they win this game. They went field goal, interception, interception, interception at the end. The Packers win by 6. So Miami still can clinch a wild card if they win out. So they control their own destiny. They're at the Patriots and against the Jets. Man, talk about two good defenses.
That's right. I mean, if they're going to get in, Tua's going to have to play well, and he's going to have to answer more questions for sure. He got one at home, but he's going to have to, go up to New England. And, again, we've seen teams have officially have a little bit of a real feel for how the Dolphins want to attack. We know they're explosive and can still make some big plays, but the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've seen more, what do we want to say, dull moments or slow moments where we go a few drives and we go, oh, they didn't put things together here. And, I do think that's because of the teams they're playing and because there's a little bit of a feel for how they attack now.
Packers are still in it.
It's amazing.
Likely going to need to win out. They got Minnesota. They got Detroit. They're going to still need some help. So it's unlikely, but Ismam Chowdhury says, what have the Packers improved on the most in the last month? Where have you seen the biggest improvement from them, Chris?
The run game has become a true force of nature. And then sprinkles of, some explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is still concerning, but made some plays here and there and some big moments. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I still, don't feel totally confident about them. It's like Jason Garrett said last night. We've seen little glimmers and moments of going, oh, wait, the offense looks good. But they've yet to seem to really put it all together. But I guess that's what I would say. A little more playmaking ability on the offensive side of the ball. The run game's become dominant, and the defense has just been at least a little opportunistic and making some plays in some big moments, even though they're still underwhelming as a whole this season.
Speaking of a run game, we wondered if the Buffalo Bills would ever have one of those this year. They beat the Chicago Bears 35-13, the final score. It is Maverick 30 with a question to you to start this one off. He goes, damn okay to the Buffalo Bills run game. First time this season we've had a real run game and think it could be huge for us down the stretch to take the pressure off of Josh Allen. This was a big one. 254 yards on 31 attempts. Singletary had over 100. James Cook was a yard away from 100. A two-headed monster. Yeah, it was against the Bears, but did you see anything there that could help him in the postseason, Chris?
Definitely. And again, it's not that they need a ton in that department, but it's just as we've always talked about. It's just they got to take a little off of Josh Allen's plate at times. It just can't always be on him making plays, moving, running, buying time in the pocket, throwing lasers. Like, it's just too much of that to think that's sustainable to win 3 or 4 big games to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, that was encouraging. James Cook, he looks like he's becoming very comfortable. And that, like, now that he's feeling mentally comfortable, you're starting to see more burst and explosiveness when he runs the football. Singletary's pretty steady with how he plays. But it was nice to see them have another avenue to beat you. It was another one of those games where, Buffalo was a little stoppy, made some mistakes. Allen, made some too aggressive decisions in that type of a football game. But, they're the damnedest thing ever, Ahmed, where you can go, oh, man, a little bit like the Chiefs and some of the great teams we see in the league where it's frustrating and you feel like, oh, man, they're being outplayed. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you're going, well, they turned it on and they're kicking the crap out of this team, even though they've made a handful of mistakes. And that was one of these games here between the run game. The defense started to make plays. Allen became a little sharper as the game went on, and they put the Bears away. I was impressed with the defensive game plan too, Ahmed. They had a plan for containing Justin Fields about as good as we've seen anybody all year long.
Yeah, let me save that. Put a pin in that because I wanted one more on this run game because, okay, they did it against the Chicago Bears. You get into the postseason, you're in a shootout with Patrick Mahomes. It feels like their instinct will be just like abandon it again.
Yes,
do you think this is a weapon that they use in the postseason, or is it still? I'm unconvinced. Even though as good as it was,
I'm unconvinced too. We see one of these games every 5 weeks from Buffalo where we go, oh look, they ran the ball. We think it's going to turn around, and then they, listen, they're going to play through Josh Allen. That's what they're going to do. I think the thing where they don't need to be a great running football team, but they just need to be good enough to where they get in the playoffs and teams are playing safeties deep and just pass defense to where you have to defend that still. And I think with their aggressiveness and as far as the plays they call in the pass game and how they're called to push the ball down the field, they're going to get some really optimal running looks as this goes along here, because teams are going to go, wait, we're not going to let Josh Allen's right arm beat us. We don't believe you can run the ball on us and all that. So we'll see. But I'm with you. I'm not sold here either. This is a Bears defense that's well coached but doesn't have a lot of talent and really had nothing to play for. And it felt like when the dam broke, they kind of were like, all right, this one's over. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Buffalo still has the 1 seed to play for. They're tied record-wise with the Chiefs, although they have that head-to-head win, which helps them, gives them the edge. They have clinched their 3rd straight division title, have the Bills. They had none in the previous 24 years. Of course, the Patriots winning a bunch of those. Over on the Bears side, how did they stop Justin Fields? So final numbers for him on the ground, at least 7 carries, 11 yards.
Right. Oh, well, this is what, I wanted to make this a best bet on the pod last week, but I've been scared by Justin Fields because he always breaks 4 or 5 runs. And I go, well, there goes, the spread they've covered. Right. One of the things I did point out when I broke this game down a little with Florio on Thursday is Buffalo, they have a plan for these type of quarterbacks. They do the right things with their defensive line. They don't just let them go crazy and go, oh, we just rush the quarterback like it's some normal, everyday Joe here. So they're conscious of not going up the field past the quarterback. That's the biggest thing. So they stay in their lanes. They stay in front of him to where they can react when he makes a move. And then the other thing to me that was a big factor in this, not an overly complicated pass game to worry about in Chicago, right? So I felt like Frazier and McDermott would be able to come up with enough zone coverages to stop the pass plays, but yet we're playing zone. And what does zone do, Ahmed? You can look at the quarterback, right? You're not running down the field covering a receiver with your eyes not on the quarterback to where now if he breaks contain, you got no clue. And Buffalo is a heavy zone team. And I think that was the big thing, that they had all eyes on him all the time. And then they have 2 linebackers who can really run. And even for like a guy like Justin Fields, make life hard on him in the open field. I think that was the thing that probably popped to me the most.
It's funny, you look at the top 3 teams in the AFC, and I think you kind of had similar feelings probably on all of them this week. You're like, the Chiefs, come on, put them away. You're kind of playing with them here. Bills, it took them till late in the game to put the Bears away. Cincinnati Bengals, they got lucky with a last-second fumble by Ramondre Stevenson on 1st and goal from the 5 with a minute left. I mean, it looked like I was like, Patriots are going to win this thing. They should just let them score so they have at least some time that Joe Burrow can come back and bring the Bengals back in this
right
game.
It was getting that close. And then I went, wait, this is the Patriots and this offense, and you play defense because there's no fucking guarantee they're going to get in the end zone. I literally, though, I was thinking the same thing you were. I was a little bit like, wait, should they let them score here? And I was like, wait, no. The Bengals got a great defense. The offense of the Patriots is suspect. Hang in there. There's no guarantee they're going to get in the end zone right here. It almost felt like it was the reverse of the game the Bengals played the week before. I was going to go, like, here's like a first half where they should have been up by more than they were, and then they just messed things up in the second half. I mean, this is one of those games where, they win it at halftime, and you went, Patriots should be happy it's only 22-0. It should have been like 34-0 and 28-0. I mean, whatever you want to say. I mean, it was total domination. They hung in there, and then that Marcus Jones interception return, that's why I had that guy as my number 5 DB in our rankings in the draft process, because you could see how electric he is, how explosive. He made that return. It kind of rejuvenized the team a little bit. They put one drive together, and then all of a sudden you're going, oh, my gosh, they're going to pull off the upset here. But good play by the Bengals defense and poor Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, let's talk about Marcus Jones, the rookie. Has a receiving touchdown, a punt return touchdown, and an interception return for a touchdown of 40 or more yards. Deion Sanders, the only other player in the Super Bowl era to do that in his career, and he has done it in his first year in the league. Got a question here from Coach Grav, who says, any thoughts on making Marcus Jones a full-time offensive player for the Pats? Seems like they need some more explosiveness on that side of the ball. Already have some decent depth at cornerback. I mean, talk about old school 2-way player. How cool is How cool is Jones so far? Yeah, what do you think is the best use of his talents?
I don't know. It's a tough one because he's like glue in coverage. Like he has the type of talent to be the best nickel cover guy in the NFL, Ahmed. So that's where you just go, I don't know what to do with him. I'd almost want to be, I'd probably keep him on defense and then let him return. And then, hey, like Deion Sanders with the Cowboys in the mid-90s. Like, yeah, we got 5 offensive plays for him every week where we give him a reverse, we give him a screen. You know, maybe we fake a short pass to him and a double move and he goes down the field. I could see that being a part. I think this guy could handle that. But, man, yeah, I would have a hard time taking away from nickel corner. Like, no joke, Ahmed. He's got a chance he can be the best nickel corner in football for a long period of time.
I don't know that he has a big personality. He needs to grow into that. Because if he's going to do all this stuff on the field, he needs to start acting like it. Act like Deion a little.
It's the New England way, and the New England way. You got to just be like this all the
time. Yeah. Real quick on the Bengals again here. So, I mean, the first half was awesome. I mean, 28 completions by Joe Burrow in the first half, most by a quarterback in a half this season. If you just forget the concerns in the second half, of course, how can you do that? But whatever. Like what we saw in the first half by the Bengals, that's why they're in the Super Bowl conversation again here, right? I mean, it's like a defense that's stingy, it's tough to run against, and an offense that when it's rolling, I mean, they put up 300 yards in the first half. It's like that version of the Bengals, would you say is as good as the Bills at their best and as good as the Chiefs at their best?
Yes, I would. And I think there's probably less flaws with their team as long as their O-line can protect. It stinks that Lyle Collins tore his ACL and is done for the year. But, I think what you're saying, and again, he had the interception of McCourty one point. Like, again, that was in the first half. And I think that was the first half. Maybe that was the third quarter. I can't remember off the top of my head. But another moment where you just seemed like they were moving the ball and going to really put them in a tough spot. But yeah, I guess I have less questions about them as a full team maybe than I do the other two teams, right? I'm not sure they have an area of their team that's an elite area, maybe as much as sometimes the Chiefs and Bills might have, but I don't know if they have the glaring weakness in some spots that maybe the Chiefs and Bills might have in some areas, right? Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining that the right way.
Sure.
But, Ahmed, the thing that just was amazing, and you've heard me say this, and you just can't be right on defense with him sometimes. He understands his O-line's not great, so he's always got the clock in his head going, I got to get the ball out of his hands. I mean, it looked like New England played every defensive coverage in the history of football in the first half, and it didn't really matter. It's zone, boom, I'll pick you apart. Like we talk about, it's man, I'm going to throw a slant to Chase or Higgins or a back shoulder or whatever. So that's where he just makes you wrong no matter what. And that's where they're scary. And then when you talk about playoff football and, hey, we'll try this play on offense and we'll do this play on defense this week that's a little crazy. And, and it's the playoffs and we're extra focused and our stars are going to play like stars and all that. Yeah, that's where the Bengals are really dangerous. And there's no doubt they're one of the best teams in football.
So they can still win the AFC North, of course, if they win out. Bills and then Ravens can win it other ways as well, depending on what the Ravens do here. And they did get a win, even without Lamar
game.
Once again. 17-9 was the final score. They have won 3 of 4 games, despite scoring 17 points or fewer in all of them. The Baltimore defense, 25 points allowed per game in the first 11 games. That's really the headline. Good job by Pete putting that note as the first one here, because if you would have told us that maybe early on the year, Lamar's going to go down, the offense is going to shut down, you're going to be like, well, we've seen this defense not quite as good as the Ravens defense in the past. What do you make of that? The fact that they've been able to win 3 of these 4 games despite the offense really not doing a whole bunch.
I think it's in a lot of ways encouraging, and you think, oh, wait, when Lamar's back, of course, that's going to add another element to their offense, both in the run game and the pass game that makes them more dangerous. But yeah, I think it's, another team we're seeing here win with team football, and their defense is stingy. That's the big. It's hard to run the ball on them. Atlanta didn't really seem like they had any much of a run game until late, into the fourth quarter where they got a little something going on. But they're running the ball the right way, And hey, it's a backup quarterback, and they got some issues at receiver. I mean, they actually had to play Sammy Watkins this week. That just tells you it all right there. I mean, they're a little down in that department. So I think there's some positive things there with Baltimore. And I think they're a pain in the butt, and they're made for playoff football because they're going to be able to chew up the clock. They're creative on defense. They'll have a few game plan specific wrinkles in the playoffs. And, that's where, they're going to play that style, Ahmed, right? I mean, we talked about that last week with the Cleveland game that they lost. They want to play right now. We're going to win 16-10 or 17-10 and not turn the ball over and play the game that way. And that's kind of what they did in this one.
Yeah, Ravens had 184 rushing yards, third straight game with over 180.
Yeah.
They did have a receiver catch a touchdown pass, DeMarcus Robinson.
Whoa.
It is the first Tyler Huntley pass touchdown this season, first reception touchdown by a Baltimore wide receiver since week number 3. You know what? I do feel like one of these games, because what did I have noted here? Atlanta outgained Baltimore. They had more first downs, ran 17 more plays. Almost feels like one of those games where one of these teams is used to winning, one of these teams is used to losing. And the team that's used to winning found a way to win.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. They're battle tested. They know what they're doing. They're very comfortable in that type of football game. Atlanta's playing a rookie quarterback, and a lot of those stats were done late in the game and dink and dunk and 3 and 4 yard plays just to get a miraculous drive to get a field goal. At least that's what it felt like on Sunday. It was one of those. It's like once Baltimore got control of the game too, they became more conservative. They're like, well, our run game and defense will get it done. We're not going to take any chances and do anything stupid and let you get some false momentum that way. And that's where, again, John Harbaugh is phenomenal. He understands his team and what needs to be done just to win the game that week. And then we'll worry about next week after that. And it sounds like Lamar Jackson's getting close, and we might see him here in the next 2 weeks or so.
Probably going to be a playoff team, and it's a lot of these wins without Lamar Jackson that has got him in this position. The Atlanta Falcons officially eliminated from postseason contention. We will do the Requiem for a Team on Wednesday because since we gave Kristen the day off, she has the music, and she wouldn't give it to us. So we can't play the music without we can't do Requiem without the music. So we'll do that on Wednesday for Atlanta, lay them to rest officially. Moving on now to the Steelers and the Raiders. And this game, Pete noted here, you can't fight fate on the week, the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, the passing of Franco Harris. And it was once again a Steelers late comeback. It was a rookie quarterback that did it, Kenny Pickett. Kind of just like it was meant to be, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, really, it just seemed like a 70s Steelers type of win. Cold night, Raiders are in town. We're going to run the ball, be tough, pretty much high percentage, low risk passing game. We're going to out hit you, and our defense will make a few plays and we'll win the game. I mean, it just had a great look on TV, even though it was a game that, necessarily didn't have a lot of big plays. But yeah, the Franco Harris element and the fact that you could feel that looming over the Steelers organization just when they were walking in the building that night, wearing the jersey and all that. There was like the pressure and the motivation for them to win for that cause. And yeah, there's not a lot of great X's and O's. The Steelers are another one of those teams like you're just talking about, Ahmed. They know who they are. They're just going to play to win the game that week. They don't care how it looks. And, it was ugly, but they just were out. They out-physicaled the Raiders and just didn't make mistakes, and that's really all it came down to.
Yeah, the Steelers somehow are still in playoff contention.
It's amazing.
They've not been officially eliminated. They're 7-8 right now. I'm rooting. I mean, Mike Tomlin, what? He hasn't had a losing season his entire career. I'm rooting for a win and a tie, 2 wins here on out. Who knows? Maybe they squeak into the playoffs again. How crazy would that be?
All right, and at least I don't have to kiss your feet this year if they do. So that'd be a good thing.
We didn't do that. Thank God.
Thank God is right.
What do you make about the Raiders here? Because we got a question from Lip Smackling Good that says, "I know you are tight with McDaniels and the Patriots way, but do you think he brought too many people with him from the Patriots and needs to go outside with his hires? Just seems to be." Game management is their biggest issue, and wondering if it's too much of an echo chamber with the Raiders right now.
No, I hear you there. Listen, Josh is it's a valid point. I get that. See, I think the first time around when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, there were a lot of people that were outside of the New England family that were brought there. And I think that was one of the issues to him, is that he couldn't get people to understand the New England way and what it took and the detail. And yeah, I know the last coaching staff, you left at 8:30 at night, but New England, we still got like 4 more hours left. So suck it up, right? And it's not always like lovely, the adjustment for the organization. But I think that's again why, like to the question here, it's a good one. You gotta let it take its course. He's got nowhere near the team he wants right now to play his scheme on either side of the ball. And that's where I've just said, they need to be patient there a little bit. And they've had some big injuries on the offensive side of the ball. And, they blew some games and some, late game moments there. I understand that. But no, I think that at the end of the day, the fact that he has more of the New England way of people around him and even in the front office, I think is going to be a good thing. We'll see. I know maybe I'm biased because I root for the guy and I've known him for a while, and I do believe him as an offensive play caller. I do. But yeah, I just that's what I would preach to the Raiders fans. Just let this process go here. They didn't make the Patriots a dynasty for 20 years by just getting it done in 6, 8, 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, 9 losses, 8 of them have been by 1 score. They've blown leads of 20 and 17 a couple times, and so no, they have had leads in game. Always my philosophy on that. I'd rather be blowing leads than never have leads, because I've seen some Lions seasons like that where you're not even in games. You don't want to do either, but if I had to choose, I think I'd rather eventually have a few leads throughout the course of a season. Davante Adams, 2 catches, 15 yards, his 5th game this season, under 40 yards. He had 4 such games in his previous 5 seasons with the Packers. It was supposed to be this connection between his college teammate of Derek Carr. And now, I follow a lot of Raiders people as well from my time out in the Bay Area. And they got to make a decision on Derek Carr at the end of this year. I think it's a $40 million decision. And I've always been one who's been supportive of Derek Carr. I think he's a, solidly above average quarterback in the NFL. And I think he can win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr, but that's a lot of money. And when you're constructing a roster, you got to think about things like that. I mean, what's your gut telling you? Do you think this is, we're going to see Derek Carr with the Raiders going forward?
I think so. I would expect it. I'd be surprised. I mean, again, the thing I always fall into with these kind of questions is like, all right, so who's going to be out there that's definitely going to be better than Derek Carr? And, you said it right. Derek Carr is definitely in the top half of football, top 10-ish to a degree. This is a big adjustment. That's where that's where I'm preaching here a little bit for the patience of this situation. $40 million is not necessarily all that crazy for a quarterback this day and age. And, he's a guy that, like I was trying to say before the year, this is a totally different system. Rules and things that are totally different. And to your point, like, hey, yeah, it's been a little feast or famine with Davante Adams and knowing how to get him the ball. Well, I think that also plays into, like, they're still in the infancy stages of this offense. And they haven't even gotten into the, wait, when teams overplay this so much, we got all these plays for Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, which are going to screw defenses over. Them being injured, I think, kind of hindered that progress too. They never had to go into the Gronkowski part of the playbook because Darren Waller's been hurt for so much. And the Edelman part of the playbook, and these, again, are very intricate and detailed and more sophisticated than a lot of offenses in football, that's where I just preach the time for it. And Derek Carr to me is the ultimate student. He's going to work. The players like him, as you can see. He's a leader. And I just don't think you let a guy like that out the door very easily.
Yeah, if you do, who are you going to bring in? A guy like
exactly.
Tom Brady, maybe. Oh, who knows? Maybe he'll be out there as we transition to the next game. See, even on Zoom, Chris, we can still find the transitions. I mean, it doesn't change anything. Buccaneers defeat the Cardinals on Sunday Night Football on Christmas Day in overtime, 19-16. Wasn't a great one. We had Trace McSorley quarterbacking the Cardinals, being like, well, this is going to be a blowout. And it almost was for the Cardinals, strangely enough, in a game that they still didn't look very good. Tom Brady with his third fourth quarter comeback this season, all scoring less than 20 points. And this is what I learned about fourth quarter comebacks from watching Matt Stafford and the Lions. I mean, Matt Stafford's got some of the most, fourth quarter comebacks of any quarterback in history. Usually I feel like that stat, you're clutch. You came through when it mattered the most, but I feel like usually that stat means your team's not that good and you're in a lot of close games. And hey, congratulations to the Bucs. They've won a few of those close games, and Tom Brady did it again. What'd you make of that win for the Bucs?
It's like, great that they won and they hung in there,
right?
But how do you feel good about it, right? I mean, what? Like, you should never be down 16-6 to Trace McSorley and the Arizona Cardinals. It just doesn't seem like anything is easy for them on either side of the ball. The defense is still good, but it's not great. It's not. And they can make some plays. We know that and all that, but it's not a dominant defensive line. That's an issue. We know the offensive line's not dominant either. As you see last night too, Brady, 2 interceptions, probably could have thrown another 1 or 2 to go along with that. It's just, this is who they are. And I'm not so sure they are going to get in. Again, Carolina, I know is not great, but they're very much as equal to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. It's just going to be interesting to see that head-to-head matchup. So, yeah, great clutch drives at the end and an overtime to win it. But, yeah, underwhelming overall. And it's just hard to look at them and go, oh, yeah, they're gonna match up with the better teams in the NFC in the playoffs and be able to hang in there. I just have a hard time to believe that.
Well, Pete's written in here into our rundown. He goes, this Bucs team is so bad, it might be genuinely surprising when they beat the Cowboys in the wild card round. But
there's Pete's Giants bias coming in once again.
Yeah. 4 straight games with an interception for Tom Brady. You mentioned it already. He's got 7 in that span, a couple in this game. Thomas S. Penna. Great to have the homie. Merry Christmas to Tomas out there. Damn okay to your guy, Marco Wilson. Great timing and awareness on those picks of Tom Brady.
He's a player. I mean, he is. They have a secondary that I really like. I mean, I know Byron Murphy Jr. wasn't out there last night, but those 2 safeties, Marco Wilson, yeah, they got some playmakers in that department. They're one thing with Arizona. If they can just get maybe another legit pass rusher to go along with the group so they don't always have to blitz and create pressure that way, they'll become a more dangerous defense. And, hey, the defense, I give them a lot of credit for the way they played last night. Cardinals they could have easily just packed it in and been like, this year's over. They played tough last night. And there they were, 16-13, leading the game and driving, and we fumbled the handoff. Right. And that it just was unbelievable that way. It was unbelievable that the Bucs were in that type of game. And then it was unbelievable the way Arizona kind of gave it up at the end and let them back in it and, eventually lost.
What do you think? You think this is it for Cliff Kingsbury?
It feels like it. It feels like it. It's never good to me when you're an offensive coach, the majority of the money is on the offensive side of the ball, and that's clearly the weakness of your football team. That is never a good look. And I don't know how much influence Kyler Murray and his relationship with Kingsbury has. I don't know. That's the one part that kind of throws a wrench in this whole thing, but it does feel like we're maybe coming to the end here with that situation.
Other side, Tampa Bay clinches the NFC South with a win versus Carolina this week. Those two play in a week. Speaking of the Carolina Panthers, they beat my Detroit Lions. Pete, we were supposed to take this one out of the rundown.
Whoa.
I don't know how this
beat?
One got
Is that
there.
The proper word? Is that we're going to just say beat?
Barely edged past my Detroit Lions. It was cold at kickoff. It was 20 degrees, the coldest home game in Carolina history. See, the Lions weren't prepared for that. It was like They looked at the historical records, the Farmer's Almanac, and it was like, it's not going to be that cold there. I think we're going to be okay. And they're like, this isn't supposed to be happening. They set a franchise record, did the Panthers, in rushing yards and total yards. 570 total yards for the game, 320 on the ground. I mean, Deontay Foreman went over 160. He had 165. Chuba Hubbard had 125. I think it was career highs for both of those guys.
They both had 100 at halftime.
Okay. I already gave all those stats. I already kind of said it was so bad for the Lions. I want to give full credit to the Panthers because I don't really want to talk about the Lions on this side of it, although we will. But that was yes, the Lions defense is terrible. Their run defense is awful, but still to do that against other professionals.
We've seen them be good, right, Ahmed,
exactly.
The last few weeks. Yeah. That's what's crazy. I did not expect that kind of gashing. I was shocked by that.
Yeah. And this is why the Panthers are still in it. As crazy as that is, the Carolina Panthers have figured out kind of probably what impresses you the most and makes you smile is they figured out how they win best for the Carolina Panthers.
That's right. They're playing an appropriate way for what they are. I think that's the biggest thing, and they're not going to deviate from that. And yeah, I again, I got to go back and watch this just to see what were the run plays that they were just gashing you guys with. We've seen your Lions have played good run defense against some teams that can run the ball pretty damn well the last 5-6 weeks. I was shocked by that. I really was, and I thought they had kind of fixed that issue. But obviously, Carolina found a schematical thing that they liked within the game. And I mean, just some of the runs, they just were like, whoa, he's flying through the line of scrimmage, and nobody's even touching him until 15 yards down the field. That's where it was shocking. And then, even with as bad as that was, what were we at here? I just want to make sure I got this right. We were at 7-7, right? Here's, to me, one of the big moments of the game. And it felt like your Lions had kind of swung momentum in their favor. They're driving down the field, and you have the fumbled snap, right, by Jared Goff. And I don't know what really happened there. It looked like it was the center made a really aggressive move to the left, and that sometimes can make the ball just be a little off center as far as the snap's concerned. And I went, oh, okay, well, they're way down there. Carolina's not the type of team that's just going to drive down. He threw, I believe, a big pass, Sam Darnold, to DJ Moore. It might have been Terrace Marshall, I believe, on this one. And it was like they just jump-started it again, and they just started kicking the crap out of you guys again. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, Detroit had got it inside the 10. They were at the 8-yard line there in the fumble, and then you're right, 91 yards. Carolina goes down and scores a touchdown, and then scored a touchdown on the very next possession, then a field goal, then a touchdown. I mean, they had 4 straight scoring drives after that fumble, and basically the game was over. Lions offense did get going a little bit after that, but Jared Goff's fumble was Detroit's first turnover in 4 games, and so that tells you why the Lions had made the run that they had run, a pretty good offense that was holding onto the ball and not making silly mistakes like they did in this game. This basically, I don't know, it feels like it might be over for Detroit, although they can still get in, but they need help now in the wild card, and realistically, no one thought this was a playoff team, so this is what it's called, conditioning yourself to prepare yourself for the worst. As a Lions fan, I'm like, you know what? Good run. They've proven that they have some ability on offense. They've got some key playmakers on defense. Even if they don't make it into the postseason, I think it's still a win for Detroit this year.
Yeah, it is. And, you're not out, like you said, and I'm just trying to figure this out because I had it all printed out as far as the playoff scenarios and all that. And I don't have it with me. But, Washington, could they lose out? I mean, yeah, there's possibilities here still. You got the Bears. You guys certainly can beat the Packers. You got the head-to-head matchup against Washington here. So we'll see. And Washington against the Cleveland Browns, that won't be easy. And then Cowboys, week 18, that's what could hurt you, Ahmed, is they could be playing Washington a game where the Cowboys are locked into the number 5 seed and they're not going to play in week 18. And it'll almost for surely give the Washington Commanders the win. And then it's, requiem for a team for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, which is fine. And thank goodness that I didn't have to read it until the end of the year. I mean,
that's right. It was a win.
January. That's certainly a win. Carolina can still clinch the NFC South if they win out. They're at Tampa. They're at New Orleans. They are now 5-5 under Steve Wilks, who knows?
It's amazing.
I doubt he'll get a look as the main man, but he's at least put himself in the conversation.
Yeah, and he needs to get a second chance at some point in his career regardless. He got an unfair shake in Arizona and how that went down. And yeah, he's certainly proven he understands how to manage a game, the appropriate way to play. And, it's cool to see. This is kind of some of the talents I saw from this football team as far as their roster. And it's cool to see them capitalize and play the right way. We'll see where this goes. I think they'll be toe-to-toe with Tampa Bay this week. They're certainly not going to be outclassed, and they know who they are, like you said, and they know how to play that style of football.
Yeah, the NFC South is a jumbled mess right now. Carolina's still in it. The AFC South, a jumbled mess as well. No team with a winning record. We got two teams at 7-8 atop the division, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans, who lost their fifth straight. This is crazy. Never thought we'd see this with Mike Vrabel. They've had some injuries, though, at quarterback. Tannehill could not finish this game. Houston gets the win, 19-14. Houston snaps their 9-game losing streak in a game where Derrick Henry went over 100 yards, had a long touchdown run, but lost another fumble. And so it's like this Tennessee team they don't make a whole lot of huge plays outside of a Derrick Henry screen or a long run. And it seems like they're making enough mistakes to make it really hard on themselves. Where would you put the Tennessee Titans right now? It almost feels like one of those teams where it's like, if they just stopped playing, their fan base would be like, that's fine. Let's just take the rest of the year off and try again next year. Reboot.
I just don't know if they have the horses to play the way you're kind of explaining, right? We're going to, offensively run the ball, control the clock, right? Make a few plays in the pass game, and then we're going to play through our defense. I think there's two things. The pass game is so less than that they can't even depend on it, even as little as they want to depend on it already, if that makes any sense there. There's, and then you add in, it's a rookie quarterback and the wide receiver issues that are still a thing, where it's like, if they had Ryan Tannehill, you go, oh, okay, well, maybe they can make it work to a degree. It's still going to be really hard, but then also the defense is just not quite as good and as dominant as we've seen with some of these last, Tennessee Titan playoff teams. So that's where, I don't know if it can carry them through here. And they don't have to play anybody this week. And I think they'd be smart to rest everybody so they can go all in on the Week 18 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
But, yeah, it just seems like it's just one too many things for this football team to overcome this year. And they're really struggling here down the stretch.
So, yeah, the AFC South winner will be decided in the final game of the season between the Titans and Jaguars, regardless of what happens in Week 17. I kind of had the same thought as you, although a lot of teams lost. And so I do feel like there is a chance that both of these teams could make the playoffs, right? Like, I still think they're in it. So it's like, I do feel like if they win Week 17 and even lose Week 18, maybe not. I don't know. I was just starting to think like maybe there's a lot of things
to fall their way, right? Yeah. That's probably where I'd look at it more than anything. They don't have a great conference record. That's going to hurt them as well. But yeah, again, win this week and then lose to Jacksonville and things fall their right way. You're right. They might still be able to sneak in, but I think it's got to be a lot of things that have to happen that way. I think their best bet would probably be to rest them up, try to win that game. Then you get the home playoff game, and you see where it goes from there. And again, like we saw them with Jacksonville just a few weeks ago, really control the whole first half of that game. And then to your point, they're making some turnovers in some bad spots where they're just not good enough to overcome that. They need to run for 100 yards, dominate time of possession, have no turnovers, and the defense has to be stingy and probably cause one turnover for them to win a football game. And that's a hard formula right now, I think, for the Tennessee Titans.
Maybe the thing I'd be most depressed about if I was a Titans fan, and sorry to keep piling on, but we just talked about my Lions, and so I'm depressed myself now and want to bring other people down to my level, is the fact that, your current window, it looks like it might be closing. And your new window's opening up, and you hope you have a franchise quarterback. You drafted Malik Willis, not high in the draft, but you're kind of holding out hope that maybe he's the guy. He has 3 starts this year. He has 234 pass yards combined in those starts. No, they haven't thrown the ball that much.
Right.
Obviously, Shoney's more skilled right now, at least as a running quarterback than a throwing quarterback. But I don't know. What do you think? We've gotten to see Malik Willis a little bit. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I mean, it's a raw quarterback who is being thrown into a situation, as everybody is kind of hitting on all cylinders during the NFL season, and he gets thrown in there. And then I think when you add on top of that, even with a good quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, this is a struggling passing game and has a hard time making plays that way. And now you add on a rookie with rawness to his game. I just think it's a tough spot for him to be in. Not only just for him personally, but the offense isn't good enough to kind of help him out either. So I don't want to judge too critically of this situation that he's been put in here. Malik Willis to me is a guy that, he needs to play, and you need to play a certain way to utilize his strengths to kind of buy some time to let some of the weaknesses get worked out so he can get better and more polished in the pocket, making the right decisions. So this is hard to be thrown into this situation at the end of the year here where the offense has already been set up to kind of play one way, and that's hard for a rookie to come in and do it.
There is a small chance, Pete has done the research here, that Tennessee wins the division and Jacksonville can still get the wild card. Tennessee,
right, it's a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, Tennessee can only win the AFC South. If they lose Week 18, they are out of the playoffs entirely, so they have no chance at a wild card. Jacksonville still does because they played so well lately. They got the win over the Jets. 19-3 was the final score. They have won 4 of their last 5 games since starting the year at 3-7. Only one other team in NFL history has made the playoffs after starting 3-7. That was back in 2020, the Washington football team. That was a name ago for Washington, so it hasn't happened since they changed their name. That Jaguars they're a fun team. It's like you talk about a franchise quarterback that's looking like a franchise quarterback right now. If you're the Jaguars, you're like, man, we got something going here, and maybe this year we could squeak into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, squeak in, be scary. Of course they're winning. I've stopped picking them to win after picking them every game the first 10 games of the season. Now they're on fire. All right. Now I keep picking them to lose close ones now, and they keep winning them. But that was impressive. And, the one thing I think happened during that game that I was a little worried about is that I picked the Jets to win the game, but one of the things I said during the Picks podcast a little, Ahmed, it was like, the one thing that scares me is Jacksonville's much bigger than the Jets, and they can really overpower them. And I think we saw that. I mean, here's the first thing we got to say. Trevor Lawrence is for sure a top 10 quarterback in football right now, boom. And I'm not so sure he's probably not in the top 7, 6, 7, 8. It's that good to where it's gotten. I mean, it's not only I can run the system, but it's also get on my back and I can carry it through some crazy moments and make plays that are unbelievable. So that's the first thing we got to talk about. But then, yes, the way they executed and just absolutely overpowered the Jets defense. I mean, just went up and down the field on them for the better part of the night. In a night where you knew you could overplay the run to a degree because it was not a pass the football all over the field type of night. And that's where that was impressive. That was impressive. Their defense played really good. And then, of course, the Jets looked like they lost fire as a team, and Zach Wilson and the offense looked like absolute shit.
All right, we'll get to Zach Wilson in just one second because I want to give a hat tip to Evan Ingram. Used to play his home games in New York. 337 yards the last 3 weeks. That is third most in the NFL behind Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. You've liked Evan Ingram for a long time. It was like, he's got the potential. He could be a big-time playmaker. We just hadn't necessarily seen it for a sustained period of time, and now we are seeing it at the end of the year. What do you think of him being like a legit guy who can help you do a whole lot of other things on offense?
He's got Pro Bowl-type physical ability. He's got all-pro-type physical ability. He's got the type of ability to be one of the 3 or 4 or 5 best pass-catching tight ends in football. It's one of those stories, a lot like Zach Wilson, who we're going to talk about in a minute. He needed a scenery change. The New York fan base had got on him to such a point that if he ever made a mistake again, everybody, oh my God, Evan Ingram, get him there, get rid of him, get him out of here. He's the number 1 tight end. Oh my God, no, it's hard. So he was in a no-win situation. And now he's gotten to a place where, yeah, they know how to utilize him in the offense. He's comfortable, and he's getting to show his physical ability. I thought there'd be a chance he would have a big night. I did. He was my prop player of the game, right?
Ooh.
For my BetMGM segment, Ahmed, because I thought the Jets might have a hard time with the size of the Jacksonville. They're going to be over-aggressive, trying to fill run gaps and overwhelm them that way, which then always leads to the tight end taking advantage of some plays and that over-aggressive nature there. And they did a great job of kind of playing to both of those on Thursday night in that dominant win.
That's a smart move in a game that you picked wrong, always to bring up something that happened that you did call in the game there. You know, it's like, I did call.
I know. Yeah, I'm not hedging, but these games are so tight, and I always try to give a little thing that scares me. I picked this game, but this scares me where the game could go the other way. And that was my scare me the other way thing. And I probably should have had more things that scared me the way that looked for the Jets.
So I'm going to read a couple comments here. The first one you've already kind of talked about with the way that New York dealt with Evan Ingram and the narrative got so bad. I think CD2K is seeing the same thing with Zach Wilson here. He goes, "Hello, homies. Hope you were enjoying the holidays as a fan. Likely in the minority among the Jets fan base, I am disgusted with the organization for having allowed certain narratives to fester and metastasize throughout the fan base regarding Zach Wilson." CryptoMug 358, and you can address both of these together if you want, Chris, says, "Can Zach Wilson turn it around in another system? You've defended him quite a bit, and I agree with you on how the Jets handled his benching poorly, but you can't deny that he's playing bad football. His confidence is gone. He needs a fresh start in a new place." What do you think, Chris?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I do still have confidence in him. You know, again, it's 2 years in the NFL. You know, and he's a guy that was hurt a little bit too. So it's a year and a half. If we just wrote off every quarterback after a year and a half, damn, we would have never saw Terry Bradshaw. We never saw Troy Aikman win Super Bowls. Steve Young, damn, throw him away. Phil Simms. I mean, we've gotten into this point where we just think, yeah, year one, you should be a star and take over the league. Like, no, that happens every now and then in special cases. So yes, there's some problems. The confidence is an issue, and that's where the Jets have caused that. They've caused doubt and lack of confidence from the quarterback. How could he feel confident? How? You know, that was only my thing to begin with here. You're 5-2. You let him play against the Bears the next week. All right, that's where they gain confidence. How can you be confident to where they made you not dress for a few weeks and then think like, oh, they feel good about me and I feel good about myself, and that makes the fan base feel better. So there's a lot of issues here. But yes, it's over. It's over. I mean, Zach Wilson should not want to be here with the Jets anymore. And it sounds like the Jets fans don't want him either. You know, but there's, you know, yeah, he has to fix some issues with his mechanics. There's no doubt about that. We've addressed that on other podcasts. And then also on that, I just want to go, you know, the Jets offense has issues. You know, again, like what were they trying to get accomplished in the game the other night? I don't even know what they're trying to do at times. That would be the thing I would question. So yes, I think it's over for Zach Wilson. They did a horrible job in this situation, orchestrating it the right way, and now they're going to be back in the market for a quarterback, you know, somehow, some way in the offseason.
So Pete has thrown in some examples of quarterbacks who, if you were a homie and you're, you know, born after 1975. Alex Smith, Ryan Tannehill, Geno Smith, some other quarterbacks who, you know, you didn't see necessarily that playmaking ability until later on. Now, Alex Smith is always what he was, but yeah, I think those are other good examples. And because Jets fans would say, well, we've seen it. We've 20 starts. That's more than enough to see, or whatever it is at this point for Zach Wilson.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. It's the team wasn't all that good last year and couldn't help them in ways. This year, you know, yes, he's got some issues for sure, but it was a tough situation. He missed the first few games of the year, got thrown in against the best defenses in football, to where they played a style of football that went, let's be conservative on offense, play through the defense. And then they wondered why he can't throw for 350. Hey, now it's time to throw for 350 and win us a game against the Patriots. Oh, okay. Like that's where it's not realistic that way. You know, and there's other issues there too. And so he's got to go back to the drawing board though and fix himself first. There's no doubt about that. But yes, the Jets deserve some of this blame here to go along with it. And now he's just got to find the right spot for next year, be a backup for someone where he knows if he gets a chance, he'll be around some talent and be able to do something. And, I'd love to see him go to Kansas City and be Mahomes' backup or something like that. That's the kind of scenario he'd be perfect for.
Time now for Give Me the Headlines presented by Hyundai. I do that abrupt transition because we've been talking a long time about these games. We got 2 more to go here. Not a whole lot to talk about in this first one, so we'll save most of the time for the second game, which we do have some breaking news about this other game we're going to talk about. Don't look, Chris. Have you seen it? Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. We'll have you do the noise and everything. First, let's start with. Oh man. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I thought it might happen today, though.
Okay. All right. We'll start with the Saints and Browns. Saints defeat the Browns 17-10 is the final score. Your headline for this game is
Fleur-de-lis don't lose on Christmas Eve? What? You can't Christianity and Catholic on Christmas Eve? Nobody loses like that. We should have known. When you have that symbol on your helmet, you never lose on a day of holiness like that, even if it is in Cleveland. So I don't know. That was a silly one, but hey, good job by the Saints gutting it out and some tough elements there and beating the Cleveland Browns, who, kind of been on a win streak and figured out how to win some games here as of late.
Yeah. So it was 6 degrees.
Woo!
The winds were like 25 miles an hour. The wind chill was -16. It was cold. And so it was one of those games where you figure, all right, whichever team gets out to the lead is probably going to win because points are going to be hard to come by. It was the exact opposite, though. So give the Saints credit. 17 unanswered points after falling behind 10-0. Deshaun Watson, a career worst passer rating in those bad conditions. Also didn't get a whole lot of help from his receivers. 4 dropped passes, most by any quarterback this week. And so, yeah, Browns are in a murky territory right now. They got to figure out what they got. And I guess the Saints still have a chance here, but they have to win out and the Bucs have to lose out for them to win.
Okay. So yeah, it's good win for the Saints, certainly. I mean, it's ugly. Like you said, it was just a defensive struggle. I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you I had a whole lot of attention on this football game. I knew what was going on. It seemed like Cleveland had control and Saints kind of put together an ugly touchdown drive. And then the big play of the game was, of course, late in the game, or the last touchdown set up by the New Orleans Saints. And yeah, Watson's still not Deshaun Watson. The Browns are playing for next year. Don't even worry about this year. This is just about getting Watson's feet wet, getting your team and culture and things headed in the right direction so you can be legit in 2023. But yeah, little unlucky, throwing a slant to David Bell on the left, tight coverage. Ball gets knocked in the air. It's just a hair off target. And, Sorensen did a good job coming down with the ball, left the short field, and the Saints kind of put the game away. It's just that Cleveland offense doesn't have a whole lot to offer right now. They're not extremely explosive in the pass game. I think they're somewhat simplified because Deshaun Watson's still getting used to things. And, New Orleans defense not as dominant as we've seen in years past, but creative and a pain in the butt still nonetheless, Ahmed. And, good job by them gutting it out and finding a way to win.
One more game to go. 2 teams that have no playoff hopes at this point. You might have to do a new headline on this one, Chris. You might have to come up with one on the fly here. So Rams defeat the Broncos 51-14, the final score. Chris, your headline for this is?
That crap was so bad, we got to fire the coach. How about that on the fly?
If you wanted to see what it's like when we come up with these at that moment, that's what happens. So that is the breaking news. Nathaniel Hackett is no longer with the Denver Broncos. I guess not shocked. I mean, this year went so poorly in a year where their expectations were so high. Maybe an unfair situation for a first-year head coach going into this too. New ownership. They didn't even hire him. I mean, it's just a weird year. So what do you think? Nathaniel Hackett no longer in Denver.
I'm not surprised. I'm not. When we were watching the game yesterday, I was like, this is the kind of game that gets you fired when it's over. Even though they probably wanted to wait till the season was over to fire you, you look like that on national TV on Christmas Day, and then your guy that's making $250 million looks like that, a quarterback, that's like, even I don't care who you are, the owner's going to have a hard time dealing with that. Even if there is only 2 games left, it's like, oh, let's just cut the cord and get this energy out of the building and just start new. But that was a embarrassment, a disaster at all levels. The defense been so good all year to get torn up that way. But why did they get torn up? Because the offense was so bad and Russell Wilson was so bad that he let Baker Mayfield in the offense like, hey, here's a short field. Get some confidence. Get some going here. Get a lead so you guys can just have no conscience and just go everywhere on us. It's head-scratchingly bad by the Broncos. The offense, Russell Wilson, the way he looks. It's unbelievable at moments where you just go, is this year 1? Is he a rookie? Did he play college football? Or is this a guy we've talked about being a Hall of Famer? I've never seen anything like it, Ahmed.
So is this a good job? Is this a good job for a head coach out there? Can they lure? I mean, there's only so many head coach openings every year, but you're supposed to have all the pieces in place here, but it certainly didn't look like that. Where does Denver go from here?
I still think it's going to be a pretty appealing job. I think the big thing is just that head coach. Is he going to be comfortable with Russell Wilson? And, the things you hear about him as a person and a player and all of those, and do you think you can make it work? But, I mean, as I look at it, I still think there's a lot of positives to talk about as far as the roster is concerned. Offensive line, that needs to be fixing. They'll get Javonte Williams back. We know the receivers are good. The defense is damn good. So, yeah, I think this will be a pretty appealing job that coaches are definitely going to want. But, yeah, there's going to be that pressure looming over this about you have to correct Russell Wilson. We're stuck with him for the next 4 years. And, that could give some coaches some trepidation, at least the ones that maybe have their pick of the litter and have some other options where they might go, I don't know if I can fix this guy. So it'll be interesting to see.
New head coach Darrell Bevell. They're like, hey, you did it before. Just figure it out again. Just make it work again.
How'd you make it work?
Whatever you did before, just do that again. There's more to talk about with the Rams here. We're going to have to talk about that another day, I think, because I think at the end of the year, there's going to be some interesting things with Baker Mayfield. Like, is he part of this team? Cam Akers. Just real quick, Chris, 10, 20 seconds. Rams, big win in this one. What did we learn that can go into next year for them maybe?
Yeah, well, I think, one, you see Baker Mayfield can still make throws and plays as a quarterback, and then he's got starting caliber traits, and he's a starting quarterback in football. The Rams, say what you want. It's one thing I love about McVay. They're another team. No matter what, they answer the bell. They come out, they hit, they play hard, right? Their defense is still stingy. They're not that far off. Cooper Kupp's healthy. Cam Akers healthy. The rest of the receiving core is there. They got to obviously probably infuse another receiver at the position to improve that group a little bit there. Hopefully, Allen Robinson can be a little bit more of have more of a presence this year. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Rams make the appropriate moves and right back in the playoff conversation next year with out there in LA. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
That was Give Me the Headlines presented by Hyundai. Final look at the final game, and we've gone long on this holiday. We've given you a present to the homies. We've gone a little longer on this holiday edition of Chris Sims Unbuttoned. The BetMGM Parlay Preview, Chargers at Colts. Chargers favored by 3.5. The over-under is 44.5. So you have the Chargers covering in a game that's just barely going under. 24-20. That was your pick on Thursday's pod. And I believe if the Chargers win, right, they clinch. They're in the postseason.
Yes.
All right, so how do you see this playing out?
I would expect them to win, but I don't think this will be easy necessarily. There's 2 reasons. Again, Colts defense, they're pretty sound. And against the offense that you've heard me say is not overly creative or outside the box in the passing game, I think they can give that passing game some issues. And we know they're not a great running team. And then I think Nick Foles, a quarterback, gives them a little bit of the unexpected. They're going to be able to dial up some plays. And as the Chargers defense is seeing on film all week preparing for the game, they're they're not going to be able to have their safeties at 7 yards deep. Like this quarterback, Nick Foles, is going to be able to throw post routes and go routes down the field to where you can't just be aggressive all the time. So that like gives Indianapolis a little bit of an advantage as far as the Chargers are not going to see some of the plays on film that are going to be called tonight with Nick Foles. And that could, of course, open up the run game a little bit to go along with that. I think the Colts will be a pain in the butt here, but the Chargers win the game.
The action never stops at BetMGM. You can sign up now using the bonus code SIMS. Your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000.
So say you bet $100 on Austin Eckler to score the first TD, which there always is a good chance that happened. It's the most popular bet on BetMGM right now. If you win, you get $400. But if you lose, you still get $100 worth of free bets.
Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter the bonus code SIMS to make your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. As always, don't spend all your Christmas money in one bet, though. Be responsible out there. And with that, we have come to the finish line on this day after Christmas. Chris Sims Unbuttoned from location. Oh my gosh, I didn't change the light at all.
I was gonna say it at one point, but we were already at an hour and 45 minutes, and I was like, okay. We were at the 49ers, and I was like, can you make it red? Can you do something?
I could have done it. God dang it.
That's okay.
Next Christmas.
That's what you say. Next Christmas, we'll be back on it. Are those skis? What the hell are those things?
It's just wood. It's a 2x4. Chris, we're at an hour and 58 minutes now. We got to wrap it up. Enough about my background.
Peace out. Everybody have a good week. We'll be back on Wednesday. You know what's coming. The What the F Happened podcast. The Treasure Hunters. We'll be on it. Definitely got some things I want to check out on film. Hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. Hope everybody enjoys this last day off. I guess it's still official holiday. Thanks for listening to Chris Sims Unbuttoned. Ahmed, you the man as always. Thanks for dealing with me. Merry Christmas. Sorry about your Lions. Hopefully you can be like the Giants and find a way in the playoffs at some point. We're going to get in. I know it. Peace out, homies. Ahmed, you the man. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Thanks for watching, homies. Hit subscribe to see all my Unbuttoned videos. You get to see me, Ahmed Fareed, all the big player breakdowns, game breakdowns, player interviews, and my film analysis. So please subscribe. Chris Sims Unbuttoned. Peace out.